The biggest lie in your life may be this: you think you do not have time. You say it when the week feels heavy. You say it when work spills over, when the phone keeps pulling, when life feels like one long reaction. But that sentence is costing you more than you think. Because once you believe you have no time, you stop looking for it. You stop protecting it. You stop designing it. And when you stop designing your time, life will design it for you. Noise will fill it. Urgency will fill it. Other people's priorities will fill it. Then one week becomes another, and another, until you wake up inside a life you never meant to build. This book is not here to help you squeeze more into an already crowded day. It is here to make you see time differently. Your life will not change when you finally get more time. It will change when you finally take ownership of the 168 hours you already have. That is the shift. The way you see time shapes the way you spend your week. The way you spend your week shapes the way you spend your life. So stop living day to day. Stop handing your best hours to distraction, delay, and default patterns. Stop telling yourself the story that you are powerless. Time does not stay empty. It gets filled. What is not designed gets taken. What is not protected gets lost. What is not scheduled stays a wish. In these pages, I will show you how to see your week clearly, design it with intention, and build a life that actually feels like yours. Stay with me. This can be the moment you stop saying, "I have no time," and start saying, "This is my life. I will design it on purpose." Chapter 1. The Lie of I Have No Time. You open your eyes and the day is already moving. Messages, tasks, deadlines, chores. Someone needs an answer. Someone needs help. Something needs to be fixed. By the time the evening comes, your mind is crowded and your body is tired. And then you tell yourself a sentence that feels obvious, honest, and final: I have no time. That sentence sounds true because your life is full. It sounds true because you are carrying real weight. It sounds true because people depend on you. Let us be clear from the start. The problem is not that you are lazy. The problem is not that you do not care. The problem is not that you are weak. You are trying to hold together a life that keeps demanding more. But that is exactly why this sentence is so dangerous. You repeat it because you are tired. You believe it because it feels earned. And once you believe it, you stop looking any deeper. This is how life quietly changes shape. At first, there are things you want to do. Read, walk, rest, learn. Call someone you love. Try something new. Sit still for a moment and feel like your life belongs to you. But little by little, those things get pushed to the edges. Work comes first, then responsibilities at home, then errands, then obligations you never chose but still carry, then the mental load of remembering everything, planning everything, answering everything, keeping everything from falling apart. The days stop feeling designed. They start feeling assigned. Your calendar fills with what must be done. Your mind fills with what cannot be forgotten. And your life slowly moves from things I want to do to things I have to do. That shift is easy to miss because it does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens 1 week at a time. One tired evening at a time. One postponed promise to yourself at a time. And before you notice it, duty has taken over the whole room. Then the sentence becomes a story. Not just something you say when you are overwhelmed, something you start using to explain your whole life. I have no time. I am too busy. My life does not allow that. Maybe later, maybe when things calm down. Maybe when work is less intense. Maybe when the kids are older. Maybe when this season passes. That is how a passing feeling becomes a permanent narrative. And once it becomes a narrative, it starts running your decisions. You stop asking what matters most. You stop asking what should stay and what should go. You stop asking what kind of life you are building. You only ask how to survive the next day. That is not a small shift. That is a complete surrender of direction. Because the story you repeat is the life you protect. If you keep saying you have no time, you will build a life that keeps proving you right. This is why the lie matters. Not because you are imagining your exhaustion, not because your responsibilities are fake. They are real. The pressure is real. The fatigue is real. The demands are real. But the conclusion you draw from them can still be false. And a false conclusion is expensive. When you believe you have no time, you do not search for it. When you believe you have no time, you do not protect it. When you believe you have no time, you do not design it. You react. You drift. You hand your week to urgency, noise, and whatever shouts the loudest. That is the cost. A bad story creates bad decisions. A bad decision repeated creates a bad pattern. A bad pattern repeated creates a life you never meant to build. This is the rule. What you believe about your time controls what you do with your time. Believe you are powerless, and you will act powerless. Believe there is nothing to design, and you will let life design everything for you. Read that again. The sentence is not harmless. It is not neutral. It is not just a description. It is a command. I have no time means do not even try. Do not examine. Do not adjust. Do not challenge the structure. Do not question the waste. Do not protect what matters. Just keep running. Just keep reacting. Just keep handing your life away in small pieces until you forget it was ever yours. That is what makes this chapter necessary. You do not need comfort here. You need clarity. You need to stop worshiping a sentence that is shrinking your life. You need to stop using exhaustion as proof that the story is true. Busy is not the same as blind truth. Full is not the same as final. Tired is not the same as trapped. So start here. Do not defend the sentence. Challenge it. Do not repeat it automatically. Watch it. Catch it. Question it. Every time your mind says, I have no time, stop and ask a harder question. Is that the full truth, or is that the story I have learned to repeat? That question matters because your whole life sits behind it. If this story is not completely true, then something changes. If this story is not completely true, then there may be time you have not seen, choices you have not named, patterns you have not questioned, and a life you have not started designing yet. That is where we go next. Chapter 2. 168 Hours. The number that changes everything. The way you look at time is broken. That is the problem. Not your intelligence, not your work ethic, not your desire to change. Your lens is broken. Most people do not live inside a week. They live inside a day. They wake up and try to survive the next few hours. They look at the clock, react to pressure, put out fires, cross off small tasks, and then collapse at night feeling used up. Then they do it again. That is not time design. That is time emergency. That is why so many people feel trapped even when they are trying hard. They are measuring life in units that are too small. A single day feels tight. A single day feels crowded. A single day feels like there is never enough room. But your life is not built in one day. Your real unit is bigger. Your real unit is 1 week. And 1 week gives you 168 hours. That number matters because it forces honesty. 24 hours feels fragile. It feels like something you can lose before breakfast. But 168 hours is different. It is harder to dramatize, harder to hide from, harder to waste without seeing it. The number changes the conversation. It stops you from saying, "I had no time today," as if today is the whole story. It makes you face the larger truth. You do not get one small box called Monday and then a new life next month. You get a week, every week, again and again. That is the real battlefield. That is where your priorities show up. That is where your excuses get exposed. That is where your life is actually being built. Look at the number without flinching. 168 hours, not 10, not 20, not some leftover scraps after work. 168 hours. Some of those hours are already committed. Good. That is reality. Sleep takes a large share. Work takes a large share. Family care, meals, commuting, chores, recovery. All of that is real. Do not deny it. Do not play games with it. But do not stop thinking there. Because most people stop too early. They count the obvious obligations and then jump straight to the conclusion that nothing is left. That is lazy thinking. That is emotional math. And emotional math will keep you trapped. You do not need fantasy. You need facts. Count the week. Count what is fixed. Count what is flexible. Count what is leaking. Count what is being spent without intention. Then decide. This is the shift. Stop asking, "How do I squeeze everything into today?" Start asking, "What matters enough to deserve space in my 168 hours?" That question is stronger, sharper, more adult, because it moves you from panic to structure. When you think in days, everything feels urgent. When you think in weeks, patterns become visible. You can see that 1 hour a day becomes 7. You can see that 30 wasted minutes repeated twice a day becomes 7 hours lost in 1 week. You can see that 2 focused workout sessions still count. You can see that 1 deep conversation matters. You can see that 1 block for reading, planning, walking, or thinking is not small when it is repeated across weeks. This is how life changes, not through perfect days, through designed weeks. That is the rule. What gets a place in your week gets a place in your life. What never enters your week will stay a wish. Read that again. Dreams do not become real because they sound important in your head. They become real when they take up time on the calendar of an ordinary week. If it matters, it must occupy hours. If it never occupies hours, then it is still only language. This is why the 168-hour view is powerful. It cuts through performance. It cuts through fake seriousness. It cuts through vague intention. You say health matters. Show me the hours. You say your family matters. Show me the hours. You say you want to write, build, learn, pray, recover, create, lead, or change. Show me the hours. Your week tells the truth before your mouth does. And here is the hard part. Once you see the week clearly, you lose the right to hide behind confusion. That is why many people avoid this number. Clarity creates responsibility. If you keep everything blurry, you can keep blaming life in general. If you count the week, you will start seeing where your time goes without permission. You will see the drift. You will see the unplanned scrolling. You will see the scattered attention. You will see the recovery that is not real recovery, just numb distraction. You will see the commitments you never chose but keep protecting. You will see how often your days are being designed by noise, not by values. That can sting. Good. Let it sting. Pain that reveals the truth is useful. Stay there. Look harder. Do not misunderstand this chapter. The point is not to turn you into a machine. The point is not to pack every hour until your life becomes a prison with better branding. The point is to make you see that time is not just disappearing. It is being allocated, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, maybe by you, maybe by everyone around you, but it is being allocated, which means your life is not only being lived, it is being shaped. Every week is shaping you. Every week is teaching you what matters, whether you chose that lesson or not. If you do not step in, default patterns will take over. Other people's priorities will take over. Convenience will take over. Exhaustion will take over. And then you will call the result life when it was really undeclared design. So stop living at the mercy of the day. The day is too small to think clearly. The week is where truth appears. The week is where trade-offs become visible. The week is where intention becomes possible. Start there. Write down the number 168. Do not romanticize it. Do not fear it. Face it. Then ask one direct question after sleep. Work and real responsibilities. Where are the remaining hours actually going? That question will change everything because it leads to the next one. Chapter 3. You do have time, you just don't see it yet. You are not only using time badly, you are seeing it badly. That is the next truth you have to face. After hearing 168 hours, many people feel two things at once. First, a small crack of possibility. Second, immediate resistance. They say, that sounds good in theory, but not in my life. That reaction is normal. It is also dangerous, because it allows you to hear a better frame and still return to the same old story. The story says your time is gone before you begin. The truth is harder. Your time is often there, but hidden inside patterns you do not examine, leaks you do not track, and assumptions you do not challenge. You do have time, you just do not see it yet. Most people think missing time means a dramatic problem. They imagine huge, empty blocks disappearing somewhere. That is not how this works. Time usually vanishes in fragments. 10 minutes here, 15 there, 20 lost to delay, 30 lost to mental fog after too much noise. An hour broken apart by distraction, indecision, or constant interruption. None of it looks serious in the moment. That is why it survives. Waste hides in the ordinary. It hides in the transition between tasks. It hides in picking up the phone without purpose. It hides in saying yes too quickly. It hides in starting the day without a plan and ending it with regret. Then you add the fragments together and call the result a hard life. Sometimes it is a hard life, but sometimes it is also an unseen pattern. This chapter is not here to accuse you. It is here to sharpen your eyes. Stop saying you have no time before you inspect where your hours are bleeding. Stop making final statements from incomplete evidence. That is weak thinking. Strong people count before they conclude. Strong people look before they label. Strong people do not hand their future to vague feelings. They test the story. You need to do the same, because once you start looking, you will notice that time does not disappear only through laziness. It disappears through scattering, through reaction, through emotional fatigue, through constantly switching gears, through letting small demands break the spine of the day, through filling tiny spaces with noise so you never learn how much a tiny space can hold. That is the shift you must make. Stop looking only for big, clean, perfect blocks. Start respecting small, available spaces. 15 minutes matters, 20 minutes matters, 30 minutes matters. An hour matters. You do not need a perfect life to start changing your life. You need visible space and deliberate use. A person who waits for ideal conditions will stay stuck. A person who can recognize hidden time starts moving. Read for 20 minutes. Walk for 15. Plan for 30. Write 1 page. Stretch. Pray. Learn. Prepare tomorrow. Clean 1 corner. Call 1 person. Think without your phone for 10 minutes. Small space used with intention is not small. Repeated across weeks. It becomes structural change. Here is another lie you need to destroy. If the time is fragmented, it does not count. False. That lie keeps people passive. Life is fragmented. Real schedules are messy. Real homes are noisy. Real energy rises and falls. If your system only works in ideal conditions, it does not work. You need a way of seeing time that works inside reality. That means looking for usable space, not fantasy space. It means understanding that hidden time is often enough for maintenance, recovery, practice, preparation, reading, thinking, and many forms of meaningful work. No, it will not solve everything in one day. Good. Stop demanding that. You are not looking for magic. You are looking for leverage. This is the rule. What you do not see, you cannot design. And what you cannot design will be wasted by default. That is why awareness comes before control. First you notice, then you name, then you reclaim. Look for the repeatable pockets. The slow start in the morning, the unfocused drift after lunch, the dead zone before bed, the waiting time, the commuting time, the time between tasks, the time lost because you never decided in advance what mattered most. These are not random details. These are pieces of your life. Treat them with respect. A person who dismisses small pockets of time usually ends up dismissing small opportunities, small habits, and small corrections too. Then they wonder why change never compounds. You also need to face the emotional side of not seeing time. Sometimes the problem is not your calendar, it is your mind. When you are overwhelmed, everything feels smaller than it is. When you are tired, every demand feels bigger than it is. When you are scattered, you lose the ability to notice openings. This is why mental clutter is expensive. It steals time twice. First, by draining energy. Second, by making invisible space harder to recognize. That is why the fight for time is also a fight for attention. You cannot reclaim what you never pause long enough to see. Slow down just enough to observe. Not to drift. Not to overthink. To observe. Then, act. So here is your command. Stop speaking in absolutes before you have proof. For 1 week, catch every place where time leaks, fragments, stalls, or disappears. Write it down. Do not judge it. Track it. Watch the pattern. Name the pockets. Name the waste. Name the hidden space. Your life is not as empty of possibility as your stress has told you, but you will not know that by guessing. You will know it by seeing. See the weak, see the fragments, see the openings. Then move to the next step. Because once you can see time, you have no excuse to keep living as if every day is only something to survive. Chapter 4. Stop living day to day. How many times have you ended one messy day and decided something was wrong with your whole life? That is the trap. One chaotic morning, one delayed task, one tired evening, one day where nothing moved the way you wanted. Then the verdict comes fast. I'm behind. I'm failing. I can't keep up. This is just how life is now. Stop doing that. One day is too small to carry the full meaning of your life. One day is too small to define your discipline. One day is too small to tell you who you are becoming. But if you keep living at the level of the day, you will keep giving daily chaos more authority than it deserves. Living day to day feels normal. That is why it is so dangerous. Most people do not choose it. They slide into it. One busy morning becomes one busy week. One reactive week becomes one reactive month. Then years pass inside a rhythm that was never designed. Wake up. Check the phone. Handle what is urgent. Answer what is loud. Solve what is in front of you. Hope there is time left for what matters. Usually there is not. Then sleep. Then repeat. That cycle looks productive from the outside because you are always doing something. But activity is not direction. Motion is not design. Survival is not leadership. If you keep living day to day, your life will always belong to whatever is demanding you right now. The daily mindset creates a false urgency around everything. When you shrink your whole life into one day, every problem feels immediate, and every unfinished task feels like failure. There is no room for perspective, no room for planning, no room for patience, no room for trade-offs. Only pressure, only reaction, only the next thing. That is why people become loyal to what is urgent and disloyal to what is important. Important things rarely scream. They do not flash. They do not always punish you today. Health can wait one more day. Rest can wait one more day. Planning can wait one more day. Deep work can wait one more day. Relationships can wait one more day. Reflection can wait one more day. And that is how one more day becomes a life that never gets built. You need to understand the cost. A day-to-day life does not only make you busy, it makes you forgetful in a deeper way. You forget what matters. You forget what season you are in. You forget what this week was supposed to be for. You forget what your energy is for. You forget that time is not only for reacting to demands, it is also for building a life. A person who lives day to day becomes emotionally controlled by the nearest problem. A person who lives with a wider frame can place problems where they belong. Not everything deserves the center of the day. Not everything deserves the center of your mind. But if you never lift your eyes beyond today, you will keep giving everything equal power. That is why you must stop worshiping the day. A day is too small to carry the whole meaning of your life. One bad day proves nothing. One chaotic day proves nothing. One low-energy day proves nothing. But people keep making daily verdicts about their identity. I failed today. I got nothing done today. I am behind. I am not disciplined. Calm down. One day is data, not destiny. The problem begins when you let daily emotion replace weekly structure. A well-designed life is not built by winning every day. It is built by returning to what matters across the week. That is the standard, not perfection. Return, not drama. Rhythm, not panic. Structure. This is where maturity begins. Stop asking, "Did I do everything today?" Start asking, "Did I move the right things forward this week?" That is a stronger question. It demands thought. It demands hierarchy. It demands honesty. Because once you ask that question, you have to admit that some things matter more than others. You have to rank. You have to choose. You have to protect. And that is exactly what reactive people avoid. They would rather stay busy than be clear. Clarity forces responsibility. Clarity means you can no longer pretend that all demands are equal. They are not. Some tasks maintain life. Some tasks grow life. Some tasks waste life. Learn the difference, then act on it. The daily mindset also makes you fragile. One interruption ruins the plan. One bad mood ruins the morning. One delay ruins the schedule. One surprise ruins the day. And because the day is your only frame, it feels like everything is ruined. That is no way to live. You need a wider container. The week is that container. The week gives recovery room. The week gives flexibility. The week lets you move things without losing the whole structure. The week makes room for real life. Because real life is never perfectly clean. You will get interrupted. You will get tired. People will need you. Plans will shift. Good. That is not the end of design. That is why you design at the level of the week, not at the level of your morning mood. This is the rule. If you only manage days, you will always feel behind. If you manage weeks, you can start building. Read that again. The day is where you act. The week is where you think. The day is where effort happens. The week is where direction is chosen. Mix those up, and your life becomes noise. Keep them in order, and your life starts to take shape. You do not need more panic. You need a stronger frame. You do not need to squeeze more guilt into your evening. You need to stop treating today as if it is your whole life. So do this now. Stop ending each day with a verdict on yourself. Stop using daily chaos as proof that nothing can change. Lift your eyes. Look at the week. Ask what this week is for. Ask what must happen before this week ends. Ask what matters enough to deserve protection before urgency eats it alive. Then build from there. Because once you stop living day to day, you stop living at the mercy of the moment. And that is where real design begins. Chapter 5. Plan the week before it starts. If you do not plan the week before it starts, you have already given away the first advantage. That is the truth. Most people do not lose their week on Wednesday. They lose it before Monday begins. They enter the week unclear, undecided, and unprepared. Then they act surprised when urgency takes over. Do not act surprised. Disorder is not random. It has a pattern. The pattern is simple. No plan means reaction. Reaction means drift. Drift means other people, noise, and convenience decide the shape of your life. That is why weekly planning matters. Not because planning is magical, because unplanned time gets claimed by something else. You need to stop treating the week as something that just happens to you. The week is not weather. The week is not fate. The week is a structure you step into. Either you enter it on purpose, or you enter it blind. Those are the two options. No middle ground. A person who plans the week starts with intention. A person who does not starts with exposure. exposure to requests, exposure to distraction, exposure to mood, exposure to whatever feels urgent in the moment. Then they spend the rest of the week trying to recover control they never established in the first place. That is exhausting. Stop doing that. Planning the week before it starts is not about filling every hour. It is about deciding what this week will protect. That is the core question. What matters enough to deserve space before the noise begins? If you do not answer that question early, the week will answer it for you, and the week will usually answer badly. It will choose what is loudest, easiest, nearest, or most emotionally demanding. That is not leadership. That is surrender with a schedule. You need to be stronger than that. Sit down before the week begins and decide, what are the few things that must move? What must be maintained? What needs space? What cannot be left to chance? That is the work. Here is the shift. Stop beginning with the calendar. Begin with reality. Look at the coming week as it actually is. Work demands, family needs, fixed commitments, travel, deadlines, recovery. Then ask the right question within this real week. Where will the important things live? Not the fantasy week, not the ideal week. This week, the one you actually have. This is what makes the practice powerful. It forces honesty. You cannot hide behind vague ambition. You have to place priorities inside real constraints. That is how intention becomes operational. That is how values stop being decoration and start becoming structure. Then, make the decisions in the right order. First, identify the anchors, what is already fixed. Second, identify the essentials, what truly matters this week. Third, identify the support, what will help you sustain energy, clarity, and follow through. Planning is not only about output, it is also about capacity. If you plan work, but not rest, you are lying to yourself. If you plan goals, but not recovery, you are sabotaging yourself. If you plan ideals, but not the conditions that help you execute them, you are building a schedule for another person. Build for the real person who will live this week. Build with integrity. This is where many people fail. They confuse weekly planning with making a long wish list. That is not planning. That is self-deception in a neat format. Real planning includes limits. Real planning includes trade-offs. Real planning includes saying no before the week begins. You cannot do everything. Good. Accept that. The goal is not to touch everything. The goal is to move what matters. Read that again. The week is not a competition to prove how much pain you can carry. The week is a design problem. Solve it with clarity. Choose fewer things. Protect them harder. Let lesser things wait. That is not weakness. That is structure. The power of weekly planning is not only practical, it is psychological. When the week begins and you already know what matters, your mind is steadier. You do not have to renegotiate your priorities every morning. You do not have to waste energy deciding from scratch. You do not have to let mood become strategy. The plan becomes a reference point, not a prison, a reference point. Life will move things. Fine, adjust. But adjust from structure, not from chaos. A person with a weekly plan bends without breaking. A person without one gets pulled in every direction and calls that flexibility. It is not flexibility. It is weakness disguised as openness. This is the rule. Decision made early is power saved later. Every choice you make before the week begins protects attention during the week itself. Decide what matters. Decide where it goes. Decide what gets cut. Decide what supports your energy. Decide what you will return to when the week gets noisy. Then, when pressure comes. You do not have to invent your life in real time. You execute. That is the point. Reduce unnecessary decision. Protect necessary action. Repeat every week. So take control before the week starts. Sit down. Look at the real week. Name the essentials. Place them. Protect them. Cut what does not deserve your best hours. Leave breathing room. Leave recovery room. Then enter the week like someone who knows what it is for. Because if you do not plan the week before it starts, life will plan it for you. And life, left alone, does not design toward what matters. You do that, or it does not happen. Chapter 6. If you don't design your time, life will design it for you. If you do not decide the shape of your week, something else will decide it for you. Email will do it. Errands will do it. Notifications will do it. Other people's urgency will do it. Your own tired habits will do it. Modern life does not leave time empty. It fills every open space it can find. That is the first reality you need to face. Time does not usually disappear in one dramatic collapse. It gets occupied, quietly, automatically, relentlessly. And if you are not paying attention, your whole week gets built by forces you never chose. This is the default mode of modern life. You wake up and react. You check what came in. You answer what is waiting. You handle what is loudest. You move from one small demand to the next until the day feels full. And because it feels full, you assume it was meaningful. Do not make that mistake. A full schedule is not proof of a well-designed life. A packed day is not proof of a good week. It may only be proof that the world knows how to reach you faster than you know how to protect yourself. Read that again. If your time is always available, your life will always be easy to invade. That is why undesigned time feels so exhausting. Not only because you are doing a lot, but because you are rarely moving from a chosen center. You are being pulled by loose tasks, pulled by tiny obligations, pulled by mental clutter, pulled by things that feel necessary in the moment but add up to nothing you truly wanted to build. This constant pulling creates a special kind of fatigue. Not the fatigue of effort with purpose, the fatigue of being scattered, the fatigue of never fully arriving anywhere, the fatigue of giving energy all day and still feeling like the day belongs to someone else. That feeling is not random. It is the emotional cost of living inside time that was never designed. You have to stop expecting relief from better reacting. Better reacting is still reacting. Faster reacting is still reacting. More efficient reacting is still reacting. This is where many people get trapped. They look for a hack, a smarter app, a better to-do list, a tighter routine. But this book is not about becoming a more polished servant to chaos. It is not a productivity game. It is not a lesson in how to cram more output into an already tired life. It is something deeper. It is a way of seeing, a way of structuring, a way of reclaiming. The question is not, how can I do more? The question is, how do I redesign the time I already have so my life stops defaulting toward noise? That is the positioning of this system. Not more hustle, not tighter self-punishment, not becoming the kind of person who turns every hour into a machine. This is time design philosophy. The principle is simple. Your life does not need more time before it can change. It needs more intention inside the time you already own. That is why the focus of this book is not speed. It is structure, not squeezing, designing, not heroic effort for 3 days, repeatable rules for real weeks. That is what creates actual change, not intensity that burns out, structure that holds. And the structure does not begin with a complete personal reinvention. Good. Stop waiting for that. You do not need a new personality. You need a few stronger rules, small rules, clear rules, rules that shape the week before chaos does, rules for sleep, rules for energy, rules for habits, rules for joy, rules for attention. Rules that look small on paper but change the architecture of ordinary life. That is how real design works, not through one giant moment, through repeated decisions that alter the defaults. You do not need to become a different human overnight. You need to stop handing your week to the same defaults that keep draining it. This is the rule. What you do not design will be designed by something else. There is no neutral space, no untouched calendar, no protected life created by accident. Either you assign meaning to your hours or the world assigns convenience to them. Either you protect what matters or the week fills with whatever is nearest, easiest, and loudest. Those are the two options: design or drift, ownership or default, intention or invasion. Choose clearly, so stop admiring the problem and start building the structure. Stop saying life is just busy. Life is busy. Yes, that is exactly why design matters. Sit down before the week begins. Name what deserves space. Name what keeps stealing it. Name the defaults that have been shaping your days without permission. Then, get ready for the next stage. Because philosophy without action changes nothing. The next step is clear. Take this way of seeing and turn it into rules you can actually live. Chapter 7. Rule 1 and Rule 3. Energy creates time. Many people do not actually lack hours. They lack the energy to use their hours well. That is the hidden problem. When you are tired, simple things feel heavy, small tasks stretch, decisions slow down, focus breaks faster, you start late, you switch often, you postpone what matters because even beginning feels expensive. Then you look at the wreckage and call it a time problem. Sometimes it is, but often it is an energy problem wearing the mask of a time problem. A tired hour is not the same as a strong hour. Stop pretending they are equal. This is why energy creates time, not literally. The clock does not change. The day does not gain extra minutes because you slept well or took a walk. But the usable quality of your time changes. A clear mind works faster. A rested body resists drift better. A steady nervous system can hold attention longer. That means the same 60 minutes can produce very different outcomes depending on the energy you bring into them. This matters because if you keep trying to fix time while ignoring energy, you will keep blaming the wrong thing. Start with the first rule. Give yourself a bedtime. Adults usually have a wake-up time because work, school, or responsibility forces one on them. But many adults do not have a real bedtime. They treat the end of the day like open territory. One more episode, one more scroll, one more video, one more round of aimless decompression that does not truly restore anything. Then midnight becomes 1 in the morning. 1 becomes later. The next day starts tired, and the tiredness gets interpreted as life being too full. No. Part of the problem is that you never close the day on purpose. A bedtime is not childish. It is structural. It is not about weakness. It is about math. If you want enough sleep, you need an end point. If tomorrow matters, tonight needs a boundary. That is the rule. Stop making bedtime a personality issue. Stop saying, "I'm just bad at nights," as if that settles it. A bedtime is a design choice. It decides whether the evening stays contained or spills all over the next morning. It decides whether your future self starts with reserves or debt. It decides whether your week runs on steadiness or constant recovery. The deeper benefit of a bedtime is not only sleep, it is closure. It gives the day an edge. It tells your mind the work is over. The noise is done. The open loop is closed for now. Without that edge, the evening becomes a soft blur. A little work, a little scrolling, a little guilt, a little avoidance. A little me time that leaves you more numb than restored. This is where revenge bedtime procrastination grows. You felt the day was not yours, so you steal from sleep to feel some kind of freedom. But stolen time at night usually becomes borrowed exhaustion in the morning. That is a bad trade. End the day on purpose. Protect tomorrow tonight. Then use the third rule. Move by 3 a.m. The afternoon drop is real. For many people. Somewhere around mid-afternoon. Energy falls, focus softens, and the mind starts bargaining for escape. Coffee will not fix all of it. Grit will not fix all of it. Sitting there trying to push harder through a dead system is often the wrong move. Stand up, walk, stretch. Get outside if you can. Use 5 minutes. Use 10. Get blood moving. Reset the body before the day collapses into passive survival. Do not dismiss this because it sounds small. Small resets protect whole evenings. A short walk can break mental fog. A few minutes of movement can lift mood, sharpen attention, and keep the final stretch of work from becoming wasteful. That means you finish stronger. That means you carry less depletion home. That means your night is less likely to become pure collapse. This is what people miss. Movement does not only improve health in the abstract, it changes the felt quality of the hours that follow. It gives those hours back some strength. That is why movement makes time. Better energy increases the value of the remaining day. This is the rule. Do not only count your hours, protect the condition of your hours. A weak body and a scattered mind make time feel scarce, even when the schedule is technically open. A stronger system makes time more usable. That is not a motivational quote. That is lived reality. Sleep with structure. Move before the afternoon swallows you. Stop treating energy as a side issue. It is part of the design, so do not wait until you are completely burned out to respect these basics. Set a bedtime. Keep it. Move by 3 p.m. Keep it simple. Keep it repeatable. Time is not only about how many hours you have, it is also about what condition those hours arrive in. Strengthen the condition, then watch what happens to the week. Chapter 8. Rule 4 and Rule 5. Build habits that fit real life. Who told you a habit only counts if you do it every day? And what if that belief is the reason you keep quitting? This is the perfection trap. People choose a good thing, then attach an impossible standard to it. Work out every day, Read every day, cook every day, journal every day, eat dinner together every day. Then real life happens. A child gets sick. Work runs late. Energy drops. Travel happens. A hard day lands where a clean routine was supposed to be. One miss turns into guilt. Guilt turns into identity. Identity turns into surrender. I knew I couldn't keep it up. That is not discipline. That is fragile design. You need a stronger rule. 3 times a week is a habit. Read that again. 3 times a week is a habit, not a compromise, not a lesser version. A habit, because your life is not lived in a perfect chain of days. It is lived in weeks. If something shows up 3 times in a week, it is already part of your life. It already has weight. It already shapes identity. You do not need daily fantasy to create real change. You need weekly consistency that can survive reality. This shift matters because it lowers pressure without lowering standards. You are not giving up. You are getting smarter. Daily rules often break because life is uneven. Weekly frequency is stronger because it matches the actual rhythm of adult life. Some days are open. Some are crowded. Some are smooth. Some are messy. A weekly lens gives you room to recover, reschedule, and still win. That changes the emotional experience of habit building. Instead of constantly feeling behind, you start feeling capable. Instead of one missed day meaning failure, it becomes one data point inside a larger structure. That is how you keep going. His is why weekly frequency works better than daily fantasy. Daily fantasy sounds pure. It sounds disciplined. It sounds impressive. But if it shatters every time real life shows up, it is not a strong system. A strong system survives friction. A strong system bends without losing shape. A strong system still works when the week is imperfect. Because most weeks are imperfect. Stop building routines for an imaginary life. Build them for the one you actually live. That is where change becomes durable. Then add the next rule. Create a backup slot. Real life always interrupts. Always. Something will run long. Something will get moved. Something will go wrong. A schedule packed wall to wall has no intelligence in it. It assumes perfection. It assumes no delays, no fatigue, no surprises, no weather, no family needs, no emotional reality. That is not a plan. That is a fantasy with timestamps. One disruption hits, and the whole thing breaks. Then you blame yourself. Stop doing that. A backup slot is the rain date of real life. It is a protected space in the week that exists for what slipped, what got missed, or what needs to be rescued. That one space changes everything. It keeps one hard day from becoming a lost week. It keeps one interruption from destroying momentum. It gives you a place to return instead of a reason to quit. This is a mature system. Not rigid, resilient, not perfect, recoverable, not dramatic, durable. The deeper lesson is this: a strong life is not built by systems that never get touched. It is built by systems that can be touched and still hold. That is what real design looks like. It expects life to happen and prepares for it in advance. A person without a backup slot lives at the mercy of disruption. A person with one keeps a path back to the plan. That path matters because the difference between people who stay consistent and people who keep restarting is often not motivation. It is recovery design. This is the rule. Build habits that can survive the life you actually have. Use weekly frequency. Use backup space. Stop measuring discipline by how perfectly you obey an unrealistic pattern. Measure it by whether the system helps you return. Return matters. Return builds trust. Return builds identity. Return builds the week. So drop the all-or-nothing standard. Choose what matters. Place it 3 times this week. Protect 1 backup slot. Then live the week like a real adult. Not like someone performing discipline for an imaginary audience. Your system does not need to look extreme. It needs to keep working. Chapter 9. Rule 6, Rule 7. Rule 8. Make time for a life worth living. You work. You come home. You eat. You clean. You check your phone. You sleep. Then the next week comes and looks almost the same. Then another. Then another. And one of the saddest parts is not only that you are busy, it is that very little of it becomes memorable. The weeks blur. The months flatten. Time starts feeling fast not only because life is full, but because so little stands out. That is a serious problem, because a life can be efficient and still feel empty. A week can be productive and still feel thin. If all your time is spent maintaining life, with no room left to feel alive inside it, something is missing. That is why this chapter changes the rhythm. You are not here only to manage time better. You are here to build a life worth returning to. A life with texture, a life with memory, a life with chosen moments, not just completed obligations. Start with this rule: 1 big adventure, 1 little adventure every week. Not necessarily expensive, not dramatic, not social media worthy, just intentional novelty. Something that breaks the autopilot. Something that gives the week a shape you can actually remember. The big adventure might be a day trip, a museum, a long walk in a new place, a class, a concert, a visit, a hike, an evening out you would usually postpone. The little adventure might be trying a new cafe, taking a different route, cooking something new, reading in a park, visiting a bookstore, exploring one small corner of your own city. The scale is not the point. The point is interruption of sameness. Novelty creates memory. Memory gives time depth. When nothing changes, weeks collapse into each other. When something stands out, the week expands in your mind. That is not decoration. That is part of living. This is why memory makes life feel richer. People rarely ask, where did the time go after a week they can vividly remember? They know where it went. It went into a dinner that mattered, a place they explored, a conversation that stayed with them, a small moment that carried color. The problem is not only the amount of time you have. It is whether your time leaves a trace. A meaningful week leaves traces. That is what makes it feel full in the right way. Then take the next rule. 1 night for you. 1 evening each week that is not swallowed by chores, drifting, or passive recovery. 1 night that belongs to your inner life, your joy, your friendships, your hobbies, your depth, your restoration, and make it real. Best of all, tie it to some form of commitment. Meet someone, join something, sign up, reserve it, put weight on it, because what can always be postponed usually will be postponed. That is the truth. If your personal life only survives on leftover energy, it will keep losing. Do not call this selfish. Call it maintenance of aliveness. You are not a machine built only for output and obligation. if every week takes from you and never gives back? Resentment will grow, numbness will grow, passive escape will grow. Then you will tell yourself you need more mindless entertainment, when what you may actually need is one protected evening that feels like yours, a night to read, create, connect, move, learn, laugh, rest with intention, or simply leave the role you perform all day. Take that night seriously. Schedule it before the week gets loud. Then use the next rule. Give things less time. Small tasks love to spread. Errands sprawl. Admin expands. Tiny obligations leak into every corner because you let them. A quick message becomes 10. One small errand becomes an hour and a half. A few loose tasks sit in your head all week and steal attention far beyond the minutes they require. Stop letting small things occupy large mental space. Batch them, group them, put them in one slot, handle them together. Use a Friday punch list or any clear container that keeps trivia from bleeding through the whole week. This rule matters because attention leaks are life leaks. The issue is not only the number of minutes, it is the fragmentation. Scattered small tasks keep you mentally half busy all the time. They reduce your ability to enjoy, to focus, to rest, to be present. Give small things a smaller home. That is the point. Less time, less spread, less mental rent paid to things that should never dominate your life. This is the rule. Time is not only for finishing the list, it is also for building a life you do not want to escape from. Protect novelty. Protect one night that is yours. Reduce the spread of small tasks. These are not extras. They are part of the architecture of a life that feels lived. A week without memory, joy, or personal space may still function, but functioning is not the same as living. So stop designing weeks that only keep you operational. Design weeks that also keep you awake. Pick one big adventure. Pick one little one. Claim one night for yourself. Shrink the time given to trivia. Then let the week leave a trace. That is how time stops feeling like something that only disappears. It becomes something you can actually remember living. Chapter 10:9. Protect your attention. No one decides to waste 3 hours today. They waste 3 minutes, then 3 more, then another 3. Time rarely disappears in one dramatic explosion. It leaks, quietly, repeatedly, almost invisibly. A glance at the phone, a quick scroll, a short video, a feed refresh, a little mental escape in a small empty pocket. Then the pocket is gone. Then another pocket is gone. Then another. By the end of the day, the damage looks large, but the choices that created it looked tiny. That is why attention is such a serious battle. The theft is small enough to ignore and constant enough to reshape your life. You need to understand that not all fun costs you the same way. There are 2 kinds: effortless fun and effortful fun. Effortless fun is the kind that begins without asking anything from you. Scroll, swipe, watch, refresh, consume. It is easy to enter, easy to repeat, and easy to lose yourself inside. Effortful fun is different. Reading, calling a friend, playing music, going for a walk, solving something, making something. Even a simple game or puzzle that asks for presence gives something back that mindless drift does not. One kind numbs you quickly. The other kind engages you. One kind fills time with passive stimulation. The other kind restores depth. That difference matters because effortless fun is built to occupy the exact spaces where design is weakest. It fits into waiting time, transition time, tired time, unplanned time. The small cracks of the day that seem too short to matter become the easiest targets. Effortless distraction does not need preparation. It does not need intention. It does not need energy. That is why it spreads so well. It slips into every open space and slowly trains your mind to avoid friction. The problem is not only the minutes it steals. The problem is what it teaches. It teaches you to reach for ease before depth, noise before presence, instant stimulation before chosen experience. That is a dangerous training pattern because a week is built from small moments. And if your small moments all belong to distraction, your week will too. This is why the final rule of this stage matters so much. Effortful before effortless. Read that again. Effortful before effortless. Before you slide into automatic distraction, try a few minutes of a better kind of leisure first. Open the book before the feed. Make the call before the scroll. Take the walk before the video spiral. Pick up the guitar. Step outside. Write a page. Do a puzzle. Stretch. Sit with a thought. Give your mind a chance to choose depth before it defaults to drift. You do not have to ban easy entertainment forever. That is not the point. The point is order. What comes first trains the pattern. And here is what usually happens. Once you begin the more effortful option, the day changes shape. Not always, but often enough to matter. One page becomes 20. One call becomes connection. One walk becomes clarity. One intentional choice protects the next 10 minutes from collapse. That is how attention gets protected, not through guilt, through sequence, not through self-hatred, through stronger defaults. If you always let effortless fun go first, it will keep swallowing your small spaces. If you put effortful before effortless, some of those spaces begin serving your life again. This is the rule. The way you use small minutes is the way your week gets built. Do not treat tiny pockets as meaningless. They are not meaningless. They are architectural. Enough tiny leaks create a drained life. Enough tiny protections create a directed one. That is why these 9 rules matter. They are not cute tips. They are not lifestyle accessories. They are the architecture of a week that belongs to you. A bedtime, a weekly plan, movement, realistic habits, backup space, adventure, personal space, smaller homes for small tasks, and now this protection of attention, small rules, major consequences. So stop saying distraction is just a little break. Sometimes it is. Often it is undeclared surrender. Catch it earlier. Interrupt it faster. Put effortful before effortless. Protect the small moments and you protect the week. Protect the week and you protect the life that week is becoming. Chapter 11. Fill your week with what actually matters. What makes a week successful? Is it a week where you complete more tasks, answer more messages, clear more emails, and stay more efficient? Or is it a week that actually feels worth living? Those are not always the same week, and that is the problem. You can be extremely busy, extremely responsible, and extremely effective, and still feel that something essential is missing. The week can look full from the outside and still feel hollow from the inside. That is the empty success problem. A person can be winning on paper while quietly losing the experience of their own life. You need to face this clearly. Productivity is not the same as meaning. Finishing many things does not automatically mean you are living well. You can optimize a life that does not even feel like yours. You can become fast at responding, fast at maintaining, fast at executing, and still feel strangely absent from your own days. This is what happens when output becomes the only scorecard. The system gets tighter, but the life gets thinner. That is not success. That is efficient drifting. A sharper machine is still a machine if it has no chosen center. So what belongs in a meaningful week? 3 things: progress, connection, joy. Progress means something in your life moves forward, not everything. Something. A project. A skill. Your health. Your home. Your faith. Your recovery. Your courage. Your clarity. A meaningful week includes movement. Connection means you do not live like a sealed unit. You speak. You listen. You show up. You eat with someone. You call someone. You sit with someone. You let love, friendship, family, or real human presence enter the week in a visible way. Joy means the week contains something that makes you feel awake, grateful, interested, light, or alive, not passive escape, real enjoyment, real aliveness. A good week needs all 3. Progress without connection becomes lonely. Connection without progress becomes stagnant. Progress and connection without joy become dutiful. Keep the 3 together. This is where design becomes life design. Do not wait for these 3 ingredients to appear on their own. They usually will not. The week is too crowded, too reactive, too full of maintenance. If you do not place progress, connection, and joy into the week, smaller demands will replace them. Email will replace them. Loose tasks will replace them. Fatigue will replace them. Passive distraction will replace them. The world does not automatically protect what matters most. You do that, or it gets crowded out. This is the rule. If it matters, schedule it. Not because scheduling makes it cold, because scheduling keeps it real. Put the workout in. Put the dinner in. Put the call in. Put the reading hour in. Put the walk in. Put the work block in. Put the small joy in. Do not keep saying these things matter while giving every usable hour to lower value noise. That is a contradiction. Your calendar should not worship trivia while your mouth speaks about values. Align them. Then repeat. A good week is not only a productive week, it is a week with progress, connection, and joy. Hold that standard. Use it. Check your week against it. Then build accordingly. Chapter 12. The small moments that shape a life. There are moments that look too small to matter while they are happening. A dinner without hurry, a short phone call, a quiet walk, a slow morning with no rush in the room, a few minutes of laughter, a child telling you something small, a cup of coffee in silence, a conversation that does not solve anything, but still leaves you feeling more human. These moments do not look dramatic. They do not announce themselves as turning points. They do not come with music behind them, but many times. These are the moments that give life its texture. These are the moments you actually live inside. That is why one of the biggest myths about life is the myth of the big turning point. People wait for the breakthrough, the promotion, the move, the launch, the big decision, the trip, the one shining event that will finally make life feel real. But most of life is not lived in milestones. Most of life is lived in ordinary repetition, in dinners, in walks, in mornings, in small routines, in brief exchanges, in the atmosphere of a normal week. If those ordinary spaces are empty, rushed, scattered, or constantly invaded, the whole life begins to feel that way too. Stop waiting for a giant moment to save the texture of your days. Texture is built small. This is the real power of repeated moments. One good dinner does not change a life. One calm morning does not change a life. One walk does not change a life, but repeated enough times, they do. Repeated enough times, they become the emotional climate of a person's existence. They become the feeling of home, the feeling of family, the feeling of friendship, the feeling of peace, the feeling that your life is not only functional, but inhabited. That matters more than people admit. A life is not only made of achievements, it is made of atmosphere, and atmosphere is created by what repeats. This is why time design protects these moments. If you do not design your time, the most beautiful parts of life get replaced by the easiest parts of modern distraction. The dinner becomes rushed, the walk disappears, the evening gets eaten by screens. The phone enters the room where presence should have been. The small moments do not vanish because you hated them. They vanish because you never protected them. That is the cost of drift. It does not only steal productivity, it steals texture. It steals memory. It steals the ordinary beauty that makes a life feel like a life. So ask the hard question. If this week repeated itself 52 times, would you want that life? Do not dodge it. Do not answer too fast. Look at the dinners. Look at the evenings. Look at the mornings. Look at the conversations. Look at the way you move through your own home. Look at what your attention is serving. Then answer honestly. Because 1 week is not just 1 week. It is a sample, a pattern, a preview of a life. This is the rule. A beautiful life is not one giant explosion. It is 1,000 small moments kept alive. Respect them, protect them, repeat them, then let them become your life. Chapter 13. Living with Intention. Are you living your life, or are you letting life run through you? Those are two different ways to exist. One is drifting, one is designing, one is unconscious momentum, one is chosen direction. One says yes by default, reacts by habit, and hopes meaning appears later. The other pauses, chooses, places, protects, and builds. Most people do not wake up one morning and decide to drift. They slide into it, quietly, gradually. One busy season at a time. One tired yes at a time. One unexamined week at a time. That is why this distinction matters so much. Drifting feels normal because it is common. You wake up, respond, maintain, recover, repeat. The days fill themselves. The week passes. You feel busy enough to believe you must be doing something right. But busyness is not intention. Motion is not direction. A full calendar is not proof of a chosen life. Designing is different. Designing means you do not leave the shape of your week entirely to default patterns. You choose what deserves space. You decide what gets protected. You notice where life is going before years do the noticing for you. So why do most people drift? Because they are busy. Because they are tired. because reacting is easier than reflecting, because noise is immediate and meaning is quiet, because there are not many natural pauses in modern life that force a person to ask, "What am I doing with the life I actually have without those pauses?" The week becomes automatic, and what is automatic becomes identity before it ever becomes conscious choice. That is the danger. The life gets built before the person fully realizes what they have been building. This is the foundation beneath the whole book. Time is the building block of life. Life is not made from abstract intention. It is made from lived hours, from where your attention went, from what your evenings held, from what your mornings protected, from what your week kept repeating. That is why this subject matters so deeply. We are not talking about calendars in a shallow sense. We are talking about architecture, the architecture of existence. Your life is made of hours, so how you shape the hours shapes the life. And that leads to the real purpose of this book. This book is not trying to help you cram more into an already crowded life. It is not here to turn you into a cleaner machine for obligation. It is not here to help you do more for the sake of doing more. It is trying to help you choose what is worth living. That is the deeper aim, not more activity, better alignment, not tighter pressure, stronger intention, not a fuller schedule, a truer one. This is the rule. When you design your time, you are designing your life. Do not reduce this work to a productivity trick. It is bigger than that. It is identity work. It is direction work. It is the decision to stop drifting through weeks that keep becoming years. Hold that line as you move forward, because the next step is no longer only about schedules. It is about the story you live inside those schedules. Chapter 14. The story we tell about our time. What story do you keep repeating about your time? That question matters more than most people realize, because the way you speak about your time is never just description. It is identity. It is permission. It is prophecy. Say, "I have no time," often enough. And you do not only describe pressure, you build a self who expects powerlessness. Say, "My life is just busy," often enough. And you do not only explain the week, you lower the standard for what the week is allowed to become. Language matters because repeated language becomes belief, and repeated belief becomes behavior. Then behavior becomes a life. This is why the story matters so much. People think the calendar is the main problem. Sometimes it is, but often the calendar is only the visible layer. Under it sits a narrative, a quiet script, a set of repeated lines. This is just how adult life is. There is no space right now. Maybe later. Once things calm down. I'm too busy for that season of life. Those lines sound practical. They sound mature. They sound realistic. But many times, they are not realism. They are surrender dressed as realism. They allow a person to stop examining the structure and start obeying it. And the dangerous part is this. A story does not need to be fully true to fully control you. Maybe your life is demanding. Good. Admit that. Maybe this season is heavy. Good. Admit that too. But if the story becomes total, if it becomes absolute, if it becomes the final word on what is possible, it starts shrinking the future. A person can have real responsibilities and still tell a smaller story than reality requires. A person can be under pressure and still exaggerate the permanence of that pressure. Then a temporary season becomes a permanent identity. That is how lives quietly harden into shapes people never consciously chose. This is the rule. The story you repeat about your time becomes the pattern you live inside. If your story is helpless, your week will become more helpless. If your story is reactive, your week will become more reactive. If your story says there is never enough room, you will stop searching for room, stop protecting room, and stop building room. But if your story changes, the lens changes, and when the lens changes, new action becomes possible, not magic, action. That is the point. A stronger story does not erase constraints. It changes what you do inside them. So what is the stronger story? Not fantasy, not denial, not saying everything is easy now. The stronger story is this. My week may be full, but it is still designable. My season may be hard, but it is not meaningless. My life may carry real obligations, but I still have responsibility for how I see, protect, and arrange what matters inside it. That is a different story. Stronger, cleaner, more adult. It does not remove the cost. It restores ownership, and ownership changes everything. This is why reframing matters. Reframing is not positive thinking. It is disciplined seeing. It is the refusal to let one exhausting sentence define the architecture of your life. It is the choice to replace vague helplessness with specific responsibility. Not, I have no time. Ask, what is using the time I do have? Not, this week got away from me. Ask, where did I fail to design it? Not, oh, life is too much. Ask, what must be protected before noise takes over? These are better questions because they force you back into relationship with reality. Not fantasy, responsibility. And once the questions improve, the life can improve, because the problem with a weak story is not only emotional, it is practical. Weak stories produce weak action. Strong stories produce design. A weak story tells you to wait. A strong story tells you to inspect. A weak story tells you to blame the season. A strong story tells you to build within the season. A weak story keeps you dramatic. A strong story makes you deliberate. That difference matters, because your life will move in the direction of the story you keep honoring. So stop speaking about your time like a defeated person. Stop narrating your week in a way that strips you of responsibility before you even begin. Change the script. Tighten the language. Speak with ownership. Speak with clarity. Speak in a way that gives you something to do next. Then to do it. Because once the story changes, you are no longer just surviving time. You are beginning to shape what time means in your life. Chapter 15. How you spend your time is how you spend your life. There is no separate life waiting somewhere outside your calendar. No hidden version of your future self being built in theory while your actual hours go elsewhere. Your life is not made later. It is made now. In ordinary time, in repeated hours, in the shape of your weeks. This is the truth most people avoid because it is too direct to hide from. How you spend your time is how you spend your life, not metaphorically, literally. If your time is scattered, your life will feel scattered. If your time is owned by noise, your life will feel owned by noise. If your time is shaped with intention, your life will start to feel like it has direction. That is why this idea cuts so deeply. People like to imagine that their values live somewhere inside them, pure and untouched. Even if their schedule says otherwise, they say family matters, but give family leftovers. They say health matters, but give health what remains after exhaustion. They say peace matters, but fill every silence with stimulation. They say meaning matters, but keep surrendering the weak to urgency and drift. Let us be honest, what matters in theory and what matters in practice are not always the same. The week reveals the truth. The hours reveal the truth. Your life follows what gets time, not what gets nice language. This is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up. Because once you understand that time is life in visible form, you stop treating schedule design like a side issue. You stop acting as if a calendar is just admin. You stop pretending that attention leaks are harmless. You stop reducing bedtime, planning, habits, walks, dinners, adventures, backup slots, and protected evenings to small lifestyle choices. They are not small. They are structural. They are your life, taking shape in ordinary form. That is why these rules matter. They are not tips for people who want to feel organized. They are tools for people who want their weeks to stop betraying what they say matters most. This is the rule. Your week is your life in miniature. Read that again. Your week is your life in miniature. Not every detail, not every season, not every exception, but the pattern, the rhythm, the atmosphere, the repetition. The things you keep postponing this week are the things you are teaching your life to live without. The things you keep protecting this week are the things you are teaching your life to become. That is why 1 week matters so much, not because it is dramatic, because it repeats. And repetition is where identity hardens. People become what they repeat. They become the kind of person who always delays rest, or the kind of person who protects it with intelligence, the kind of person who drifts into the screen every evening, or the kind who chooses what the evening is for, the kind of person who says family matters while staying mentally absent, or the kind who creates moments that leave a trace, the kind of person who keeps waiting for life to begin, or the kind who understands that life has been happening the whole time. There is no neutral repetition. Repetition builds someone. This is why time design is not really about time alone. It is about self-respect. It is about refusing to let your one life dissolve into unexamined defaults. It is about deciding that your hours are too valuable to be shaped only by habit, pressure, and convenience. Self-respect is not only what you say about yourself, it is what you protect. It is what you make room for. It is what you refuse to keep sacrificing to noise. A person with self-respect does not need a perfect life. They need a life they are willing to shape on purpose. So stop waiting for some future season when life will finally become real enough to design. This is the life. This week is part of it. This evening is part of it. This hour is part of it. What you do with it matters because it becomes you. Hold that line. Take it seriously. Then get ready for the final step. Because once you accept that how you spend your time is how you spend your life, there is only one question left. Chapter 16. Designing a life that feels like yours. There is a kind of life that looks full from the outside and still feels strangely absent from the inside. The calendar is busy. The tasks get done. The responsibilities are real. The days keep moving. But beneath all of it, something feels off. You are functioning, but not fully living. You are carrying life, but not always inhabiting it. You are surviving the week, but not always recognizing yourself in the shape of it. That is the final problem this book has been moving toward. Not just whether you use time well, whether the life your time is building actually feels like yours. This is where everything comes together. At the beginning, the lie was simple. I have no time. Then the lens changed. You saw the week differently. You saw the 168 hours. You saw that time was not only missing, it was being used, scattered, shaped, filled, and often surrendered without inspection. Then the structure changed. You learned that a week can be designed, that bedtime protects tomorrow, that energy changes the value of an hour, that habits work better in weekly rhythm than daily fantasy, that backup space keeps life from breaking the plan, that adventure, joy, attention, and small moments belong inside the design, not outside it, that the story you tell about your time becomes the pattern you live inside, that how you spend your time is how you spend your life. Now, the final question stands in front of you without disguise. What kind of life are you actually designing? Do not answer too quickly. This question is deeper than preference. It is deeper than aesthetics. It is deeper than whether your week looks balanced on paper. The issue is ownership. Does your life feel chosen? Does it feel inhabited? Does it feel aligned with what you say matters? Or does it feel borrowed, defaulted, inherited, and half-directed by noise? Many people never stop long enough to ask. They just keep maintaining. They keep answering. They keep adapting. They keep letting the week happen to them. Then, one day, the discomfort becomes harder to ignore. Not always because life is terrible. Sometimes because life is decent enough to continue and empty enough to hurt. That kind of emptiness matters. It is the warning sign of misalignment. Listen to it. A life that feels like yours is not a life with no duties. That fantasy will keep you childish. Real life carries weight. Work, family, care, limits, seasons, fatigue, bills, responsibility. Stop pretending freedom means absence of structure. That is not maturity. Real freedom is different. Real freedom is having a life where the structure serves what matters instead of crushing it. It is having a week where obligations exist, but they do not erase your values. It is having rhythms that make room for your inner life, your relationships, your health, your peace, your contribution, your joy, your becoming. A life that feels like yours is not empty of responsibility. It is full of intentionality inside responsibility. This is why the phrase matters so much. Feels like yours, not looks impressive, not sounds admirable, not fits someone else's script. Yours. Because many people are living borrowed definitions of a good life, borrowed expectations, borrowed pace, borrowed standards, borrowed urgency, borrowed shame, borrowed success, borrowed busyness. Then they wonder why the week feels heavy, even when they are doing what they are supposed to do. Of course it feels heavy. A borrowed life always costs more to carry. It asks you to spend your time proving something instead of living something. It keeps you in performance when what you need is alignment. So strip the question down. What actually matters to you? What kind of rhythm helps you feel clear, present, strong, and honest? What belongs in your week if the week is going to feel inhabited, not merely endured? What conversations matter? What mornings matter? What evenings matter? What work matters? What rest matters? What kind of movement? Attention, prayer, silence, laughter, service, reading, family time, thinking time, creating time, wandering time, or recovery time belongs in the architecture of your life. Do not answer like a brand. Answer like a person. Then be brave enough to design around the answer. This is where many people hesitate, because once you admit what matters, you also expose what has been missing. Once you admit what kind of life feels true, you also see how much time has been handed to what is false, empty, or merely urgent. That can sting. Good. Let it sting. Clarity without courage changes nothing. You are not here only to name the better life. You are here to build it. Piece by piece, week by week, decision by decision. That is the standard. Not dreaming, designing. This is the rule. A life that feels like yours is built on purpose, not once, repeatedly. It is built when you stop handing every week to default patterns. It is built when you stop using busyness as proof that drift is unavoidable. It is built when you decide that your hours are too valuable to keep serving a life you do not respect. And it is built in ordinary ways, in a bedtime you keep, in a walk you take, in a dinner you protect, in a phone left face down, in a block of work that moves something forward, in one evening that belongs to your inner life, in one small adventure, in one conversation, in one honest decision to stop saying yes to what keeps stealing the life you say you want. Do not miss the power of the ordinary. Grand reinventions are overrated. A different week, repeated with intention, can change the whole feel of a life. That is how identities shift, not only through dramatic decisions, but through repeated structure. The week becomes calmer, then clearer, then more honest, then more alive. Then, one day, you notice something simple and powerful. You are not just managing time anymore. You are living inside a life you can recognize. That matters, because recognition is part of peace, not perfection. Recognition, the quiet sense that your time is no longer constantly betraying your values. And let us be clear, you will not do this perfectly. Good. Stop demanding that. The goal is not a perfect week. The goal is a true one. The goal is not never getting interrupted. The goal is returning with intelligence. The goal is not having zero chaos. The goal is refusing to let chaos write the whole story. Real life will still move things. Seasons will still change. Energy will still rise and fall. People will still need you. Plans will still break. Fine. Design again. Adjust again. Return again. A life that feels like yours is not fragile. It is resilient because it can be rebuilt week after week without losing its center. So here is the final command. Stop waiting for your real life to begin somewhere later. This is it. This week is part of it. This morning is part of it. This evening is part of it. These hours are not rehearsal. They are the material of your one life. Treat them that way. Design them that way. Protect them that way. Fill them with what matters enough that, over time, the life taking shape around you starts to feel honest, inhabited, and unmistakably your own. That is what this book has been about from the beginning. Not getting more time, seeing it clearly, not controlling every minute, designing the pattern, not becoming more efficient for the sake of pressure, becoming more intentional for the sake of life. So take the week seriously. Take your hours seriously. Take your values seriously. Then bring them together. Build a week that reflects them. Build another. Then another. And keep going until your life stops feeling like something you are merely carrying and starts feeling like something you are actually living. Design the week. Protect what matters. Return when it gets messy. Then do it again. That is how a life that feels like yours is built.